Hello everyone, I'm on plot 2 today. I said I'd do a plot tour and I will of plot 2 and plot 1. But first I'd like to show you a bit of the harvest I've done on the alliums, a little bit of garlic and some onions, which I did about a week ago when it was hot. As you probably know, we've had terrible rain at the moment. The day before yesterday it was a monsoon and I've got flooding in my back garden, and we expect more rain today, intermittent strong bursts. So let me just try to get this little bit of filming done before I get rained out. And here in the back garden I have the Lidl Spanish garlic drying out now. Because we've had a few days of quite hot sunshine, I'll leave them out here, then I'll hang them up indoors to dry. Here I have a Carcassonne, put it in the sun, Carcassonne garlic that I harvested, but I think it's a bit too early. So I'll leave that for a week or two and see how that goes. Also in the back garden, drying out, are the onions. And I move them around so it doesn't ruin the grass. And those will stay outside because there really isn't any space indoors to dry. I did this last year with the mainframe onions and that worked quite well, but then we did have a very hot summer. Well, I'm back on the allotment and the sun has come out after all that awful rain we've had and the more that was expected. This is where we have the radar overwintering onions, and I'm growing Greek gigante beans here. And you may ask yourself, well, why is she growing these big white beans when she didn't like the borlotti beans? Well, someone had told me that borlotti tasted really good with butter, but it didn't. So I think the problem lies with my cooking. I've got to learn how to cook these beans. There are some peasant recipes, such as the Tuscan bean soup, and the Greeks as well, where they stew them with garlic and onions and tomatoes. So maybe that's the future. Here I have the chard, the Bright Lights chard, which last time you saw them I had taken quite a few leaves off because they had a leaf miner of some sort. That's come back a bit and I've taken some more leaves off, but I think they're going to be all right. In the middle, eventually, I'm going to have the gladioli and the dahlias and the few zinnias. I think I've already run out of space, but here are the main crop onions. The white ones haven't done too badly, but some of the red ones have had scapes. And I've not grown red ones before, so it should be interesting to see how they do. Then we come to the broad beans, which grew much taller than this, but I've been cutting them down. They've had a bad infestation, if you can call it that, of black fly. Last year I grew them, they were tall, they only had a little black fly at the top. I'm not bothered about the black fly myself, but I'm worried about the virus it might give. But at the moment I'm just harvesting as much as I can. This is about the 5th harvest I've had, and I've been eating them fresh, and I've started to freeze them as well. And I still have a couple of bags left over from last year in the freezer. I was a bit concerned. I know I planted them far too densely, but I was a bit concerned that the bees wouldn't go into the middle and be able to pollinate the flowers. There are plenty of beans, even inside where I thought the bees couldn't get to them. We look around through here and through there. Lots of beans. As you can see, this year, an awful lot of ladybirds around. So I am cutting this down now because I do need the space to grow some winter cabbage and winter lettuce, and want to get that ready. But there are lots of beans still to harvest. And what I do is just take a handful, swish them in a bucket of water, put them under running water, and then I shell them, so there's no problem there. Coming to the back of plot 2, there are the tomatoes, and among them I've got Brandy Boy, Shimmer, 3 Shimmer, and the Brandywines have not done too well, so I'll be reseeding those. In front I've got 2 courgettes here, Tondo de Piacenza. They are round pale green courgettes, which are lovely braised, very nice. And what I've done as well is to use these white sticks to show me where they are, because I know last year they got enormous. They will overlap at some point. They will all be just one lot of leaves, so it's easier to water them. As well as that, I'm using what Cliff from somewhere on the internet, Castle Hill Gardens, does not only put that in, to water them from there, but also when they're bigger to put the second one in, so they have a continuous supply of water. With the tomatoes, as you probably know by now, that they have two kinds of roots. The upper roots are their feeding roots and the lower roots are their water roots. And I don't know when they differentiate and they get the two roots, or if it's always like that, or if there's an overlap, but it doesn't matter, because what I do with tomatoes is to get these pots and cut the bottom out of them so that the water goes straight through and their roots can go straight through. And because I plant them quite deeply and there's this area at the top, then the water doesn't run off, it fills in there. And I think I've been doing these for about 20 years, and I think this could be the precursor of those halos that people use. After I've watered them inside here, then I water around them, and then later on when they're getting their little fruitlets and flowers, I put their feed inside there. And I don't have any problems with tomatoes except for growing them in the first place, which, as you can see, that seedling isn't working at the end, and also with blight. This is one of the where one of the courgettes should have been, and I'm growing another one because I snapped the top off by mistake. Here are some sweet candle carrots which I've never grown before, so I'm hoping that putting them in a pot high up will be enough that they won't get the the carrot fly. This is Charlotte potatoes, and I'm growing these in buckets, and they really do seem to need an awful lot of water, and they've got an awful lot also of greenery. I've harvested some, and if I just pull that out, you'll see that there are some small potatoes there. I don't need more than that. I'm not really a great fan of potatoes, but I do love new potatoes, and I've already tasted them and they taste absolutely beautiful. I had them with potato salad with a bit of mayonnaise and a bit of Greek yogurt. This plant here is, well, it's a winter squash, and I can't remember the name. And what happened to the label? I don't know. The label's gone walkies. Oh no, hang on, here it is. Marina di Chioggia. And it's going to run through there. These potatoes will have moved by then, and it's going to romp all over the place, I hope. And over here is the Tiger Cross marrow, which, as I said, last year I had 2 plants and I had 19 marrows, so this year I've just got 1. Those 2 are Shirley tomatoes that someone has given me, and I've never grown those before, so I'll be interested to see how they do. And I have some Brandy Boy tomatoes, which were wonderful last year. Unfortunately, they're F1 hybrid, so I can't save the seed, but I'll be buying some more seed because they were really quite a success last year. Then coming up the side of plot 2, we have the raspberries, and there's some fruit which will hopefully ripen. And then coming further up, I've got some white Lisbon spring onions, which are doing very well, and then some beetroot, just ordinary Bolt Hardy beetroot. And then we're back at the front again. Now I'm on plot 1 with the garlic, which is really rusted through. Last video I thought it wasn't ready enough, and it wasn't, and this time I think possibly it's too ready. It's gone over. If you can see here, move that away, it really is quite mature, and here, oops, even more so, they're starting to go into their little cloves, so I would have to dig deep and pull it out, and I think that is just going over now, just more than ready, and I'm going to dig most of this out today. Coming back up, we have one of the strawberry beds, which are, these are just 1 year old, and they're doing really well. That's a nice little gariguette there, which is an early little strawberry there, which some little critter has started nibbling on, so I shall pick that and eat it. In the centre, I've I've got some lettuces which some are going to come out because something else has been eating some of them, but I'm really quite pleased because I'm not very good at growing lettuce. They tend to get eaten very quickly. Over here I have one of my favourite plants, Tritolea laxa, and I think this is Corona, which is a dark blue, and I'll show you that next time. And then some lovely thyme with lots of bees, and then the main strawberry bed which goes along there, and that's a punnet of strawberries I've just picked. The runners from these strawberries, although I keep cutting them off, they really are, they grow very quickly, and it's important to cut them off to keep the strength in the plant until you want to get new plants. Here I've done my little trial of Guardsman spring onion and also white Lisbon. I don't think there's a lot in it. Guardsman is stronger and it is standing straighter, but if white Lisbon doesn't cost too much, I'm quite happy to have white Lisbon. So it really depends on the flavour, if there is any difference, if I can tell any difference. These strawberries here are Florence and they're Lates. I did panic for a while thinking there wasn't going to be any fruit, but they're coming out now and they'll be ripening later than the others. On this bed we've got some runner beans called Benchmaster, which I've not grown before, but they have a good reputation as exhibition and good flavour, so we'll see how they do. They are doing really quite well. I'm pleased with that. And then the cabbage patch, I have some collards called Georgia Southern. I've not grown them before, and I don't even know what they taste like, but I'm quite hopeful. Then we have the summer cabbage. We've got Golden Acre doing quite well, and also some summer cabbage called Red Rookie, which is again doing quite well. What is a bit disappointing is at the end that the deer slugs have attacked my cobra plants. So I have put some directly in the ground and I'll be growing some again. And of course we don't use metaldehyde anymore, which is too poisonous for creatures, but there are some other things which I shall try. I've also been putting grass cuttings round plants, around the tomatoes, if you remember, and that's really to keep the moisture in, which at the moment isn't a problem. Over here we've got what might be the tayberry or loganberry, and I can just see that some little critter has made this drop, which is annoying. So if anyone can identify that and see whether it's a loganberry or a tayberry, I'm not sure. And this is the end of the lovely, lovely flowers of Phacelia. And also the Erica raspberry, late raspberry, autumn fruiting raspberry is doing quite well. There's lots of fruits there. And at the back here I can just see some red flax, which I had sown, which is just peeking through, which is really quite lovely. I had lots of asparagus this year, and now I'm letting it grow, and I'll be feeding it again with some nitrogen, with some nettle liquid to keep it nice and strong for next year, so I can have a good harvest next year. And then there's the wildlife patch with some more Phacelia. Well, I've ended the tour there as the rain started to come down hard, and it's raining quite hard now. I'll speak to you all soon.